Now, Christopher Gregory writes in, here's a second weed we're going to pull. Bill Nye makes an interesting point about kangaroos after the flood in this short video. Why is there no evidence of such animals anywhere else, or is he wrong? Well, I watched the short video clip of his debate against Ken Ham, and Bill Nye says, why don't we find fossils on the trail from Mount Ararat to Australia? Fossils of kangaroos. Well, on my video number 6, the Hovind theory, I talk about these things, and you can get that. One of the questions I had a student ask is, excuse me, how did kangaroos get to Australia? Fair question. I'll tell you right now, they hopped. That's how they get everywhere, okay? The oceans average 12,000 feet deep. Continental shelves average less than 600 feet deep. If you lowered the oceans 5%, all the continents would be connected. You could walk anywhere in the world. If the oceans were 5% lower, 12,000 foot average. The Bible says in Psalm 104, toward the end of the flood, the mountains arose, the valleys sank down, and the water rushed off. Doesn't say those words, but that's the teaching. During the end of the flood, the mountains would lift up, the water would rush off into the low places. The oceans are there today because of the flood, and all the mountain ranges, nearly all of them, follow the coastline. I mean, look at the globe. They're here. And the earth is round, and it does spin, and it goes around the sun. Okay. But the Appalachian Mountains follow the Atlantic Ocean. The Rocky Mountains follow the Pacific. The Andes Mountains follow the South Pacific. The Alps follow the Mediterranean. The oceans and mountains formed at the same time because of the same thing.
And the oceans have a bottom.
And the oceans have a bottom to them, yeah. 12,000 foot average. Now, there's the deepest place, Marina Trench, is what, 37,000 feet? So there's some deeper places than that, but 12. Now, it's pretty obvious there was an ice cap covering nearly all of Canada and a bunch of the United States. There was ice a kilometer thick, that's 3,300 feet thick, that came all the way down to Kansas City, Missouri. That's a lot of ice, okay? It would take 100 years for that to melt back. I think during the flood, the ice caps were gigantic. And for the first 100 years after the flood. Well, now hold it. If the ice caps are huge, that makes the oceans lower. Doesn't it? Yeah, you trap 5% of the water in the form of ice and make the ice caps ginormous, the oceans are lower. This is England and Ireland. Look around there. This is called the continental shelf. That used to be the beach line, way out there. You could walk over to England and walk to Ireland. The English Channel is only 150 feet deep. That's from here to my house. It's 30 miles wide and only that deep, okay? The shallow part of the water can be seen from space or on your cell phone. Get your cell phone and go to the Maps program and just look at some places around the world. You can see the continental shelf. That's how easy it is to spot. Alaska would be connected to Russia by a huge land bridge. That water between Alaska and Russia is only like 60 feet deep. This building from that door to the shop is 60 feet. That's how deep it is over a 70 or 80 mile stretch of water. So, right after the flood, the oceans were lower because the ice caps were bigger. So this was the beach line for Alaska. And it was all connected to Russia. But nobody cared because nobody lived up there yet.
Ice melts, the water rises.
If you raise the water just 10%, almost all of America would go underwater. This red shaded area would all be underwater. That's with a 10% increase in ocean depth. 10%. You'd have a little bitty island over here called Appalachia where everybody's related. And then you'd have this part of the United States, and the whole central part would be underwater. Chicago's only 600 feet above sea level. 600 feet is what? From here to, let's see. I should have measured something, 600 feet. 2 football fields, not that far, okay? If you lower the oceans 5%, here's the beach line off of Florida, you could walk over to Cuba. Now, I think what happened as the oceans filled in from the melting ice, the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean would fill in and slowly backwards fill in the Gulf of Mexico, cutting a notch right here between Cuba and Florida that probably wasn't there for the first 100 years after the flood. You could walk anywhere. You know, Pensacola and Mobile Bay average 7 feet deep. They had a hurricane once. The wind was blowing just right. It blew all the water out of Mobile Bay. It was dry. You could walk across. Lake Pontchartrain, 24 miles across there, 12 feet deep, the height of that ceiling. That's a big lake to be 12 feet deep. So, yes, ocean levels are, we look at the oceans and think, oh, wow, that's water, and yes, but it's not all deep. If you lowered the oceans just a couple of percentage points, you could walk from Vietnam to Australia. It's all connected. In the debate, I don't know if Ken Ham, I didn't hear his answer. I don't know if he should have, nailed him on that one. He said they've been down there scuba diving and they can't find this underwater land bridge to go to Australia. Bill, you got to be a moron. There is still an underwater land bridge between Vietnam and Australia. When they were searching for the Air Asia airline that went down, here's the depth of the water around Indonesia, less than 25 meters deep. So lowering the oceans a few hundred feet connects everything. So how did the kangaroos get to Australia? They hopped. See, marsupials are less aggressive than most other animals. And as they got off the ark, they would, rather than fight for their territory, just give it up. The tigers move in, okay, well, let's move out, okay? So there would be a migration wave away from Noah's Ark. That would probably take 100 years, you know, many generations. As they move away, they would migrate away, generation after generation. They're just looking for a safe place to raise their kids like everybody else. That's why the chickens get up on the top bar we put up there, okay? So everybody's looking for a safe place to live. So how did they get to Australia? They hopped. Why are no fossils found along the way? Bill asked. Oh, well, Bill, the fossils you're talking about generally formed during the flood. This happened after the flood. How many fossils are forming today?
Not as many.
Probably nearly none. How many animals died today? Millions. None are going to fossilize. Why not? They're not buried. Fossils take a particular set of circumstances like rapid burial in soft mud and preservation from oxygen, etc. So the fact that we have fossils at all is evidence of a flood. And none of the fossils count as evidence for evolution. None. Human and chicken bones have never been found in the same rock strata. That proves humans have never lived with chickens. Can you see the stupid logic of this? Because we don't find kangaroo fossils on the way to Australia, that somehow proves it didn't happen. Think about that just for a couple of minutes. Come on. Anyway, okay.
I want to know how they explain it.
Well, they'll say they evolved in Australia. Yeah. That's proof we all came from a rock. I mean, who can't see that? Gee whiz.